And now, your daily dose of debate, breaking news, and uncensored views. This is the Michael Medved Show.
And another great day in this greatest nation on God's green earth. A great day when 2 American servicemen were rescued. That is after Iran shot down a U.S. Apache helicopter. That was last evening, Monday evening, near the Strait of Hormuz. Where else? President Trump, who has shown reluctance to return to full-scale military operations against Iran, wrote on social media, "I have just been informed by our great military that last night the Iranians shot down one of our highly sophisticated Apache helicopters while patrolling over the Strait of Hormuz." The helicopters were patrolling over the Strait of Hormuz. There were 2 pilots involved. Both are now safe and uninjured. Thank God. Nevertheless, the United States must, this is President Trump speaking, of necessity respond to this attack. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Signed, President Donald J. Trump. This actually brings up the idea that right now, in responding to the new militancy of the Iranian side, the new attacks on American and Israeli resources, that the ceasefire is going from being fragile to being non-existent. There is a powerful editorial today in the Wall Street Journal about President Trump's lack of response to Iranian attacks. We will get to that. There's also commentary about inventing fraud. Who's inventing fraud? Where and why? We will get to that on the Michael Medved Show. And a basketball game, part of the NBA Finals, leads Mediaite to speculate about the Trump curse. Is there a Trump curse, which is now palpable and you can see as part of his attendance in sporting events? What does that mean for the upcoming UFC battle that is going to be staged at the White House lawn? This is coming up in less than a week. A highlight of our celebration of independence. We will get to that as well. Meanwhile, the Dispatch reports that Israel and Iran both said yesterday that they would halt strikes after Iran fired on Israel on Sunday and Monday, and the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, responded by striking Iranian military targets and a petrochemical facility. The Iranian military, which had launched the attacks on Israel in retaliation for Israeli attacks on the terrorist group Hezbollah in Lebanon, released a statement warning that further Israeli operations in Lebanon could result in another attack on Israel. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said yesterday that the IDF would continue its offensive in southern Lebanon to disarm Hezbollah, and Israeli troops and Hezbollah exchanged fire after Iran's announcement. Israel also conducted multiple strikes across Lebanon today. Today, also, voters in 4 states head to the polls to choose candidates who compete in November's midterm elections. Those key races feature in particular, the race in Maine, where Graham Plattner is gotten a great deal of attention, most of it about his personal failings and misbehavior, really, particularly involving some of his conduct with women. We will get to that as well. There is also this concerning the primary elections that are coming up today. Donald Trump is inventing fraud in California's primary elections, so says The Guardian. and he is likely to ramp up unfounded allegations when more races go against him, pro-democracy experts have warned. While the U.S. president has used his playbook for years, from his loss at the Emmys as a reality TV star to his defeat in the 2020 presidential election, election integrity campaigns fear this time could be different. California's election is not the problem here, said Omar Nureldin, who is senior vice president of a policy and litigation group at Common Cause, a pro-democracy organization. The problem is that we have a president in the Oval Office who continues to lie and sow doubt over elections instead of facing accountability from voters. Interestingly, it was this issue, nothing having to do with the economy, nothing having to do with Iran, nothing having to do with tariff policy. What got President Trump so upset that he walked off the set of the Meet the Press was a discussion about the California election and his insistence that the California election was a fraud. Now, again, does this make any sense at all? When the Democratic establishment, which definitely was supporting Karen Bass, the incumbent mayor of Los Angeles, and she is an establishment Democrat, former congresswoman, and somebody who had the backing of Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris and every Democrat, Nancy Pelosi, of distinction and fame and power and influence in the state of California. But the point is that those people wanted her to have a race against Spencer Pratt. Why? Because he would be an extreme candidate who isn't even a proud Republican. He calls himself a rhino Republican. And all of the polling and all of the common sense shows that he would have been much easier to beat than Rahman, who is the city councilman, who is a socialist, who has stronger support, who has moved ahead of Spencer Pratt in the vote count, which drags on and on and on. And Trump lost his cool, they report in The Guardian, after a journalist pushed back on his latest attempt to sow doubt in election results, storming out of a Meet the Press interview which aired this weekend. The outburst showcased a feature of Trump's approach if results don't go his way. He quickly declares them rigged, rallying his supporters and right-wing media to spread similar messages. California is the latest and largest test of this technique in this election cycle. This year's midterms will serve as an example of how the president will wield the federal government's power at cities and states in a crusade to ensure that his party maintains power. And that is, of course, regardless of what the polls say and regardless of what the people say in their election, where it's no surprise to anyone that the Republicans are heavily outnumbered in the state of California, just the way that Democrats are heavily outnumbered in the state of Texas, where the Democratic dreams of actually capturing a Senate seat are probably an uphill and impossible struggle. Speaking of uphill and impossible struggles, more on the very latest for for Iran, and for the desire to find an end to that war. Coming up on the Medved Show. And on the Michael Medved Show, voters in 4 states will be heading to the polls today, or they have already mailed in their ballots by mail. And the voters in those 4 states will choose the candidates who will compete in November's midterm elections. Maine is the big focus because of the presence of Graham Plattner, who has become a very controversial figure with more and more disclosures about his past life. And no, it's not just the Nazi tattoo that he wore on his chest for 18 years, claiming he didn't know what it was. But he's heavily tattooed. But the place of pride that he gave to his various tattoos was the one on the chest, which was a skull, a Totenkopf, a death's head, that was associated with the SS, the elite group under Nazi Germany that administered the death camps. So again, it's a peculiar story. He says he has done something to obscure the tattoo on his chest. One thing is he hasn't appeared bare-chested recently. So he is challenging Susan Collins, who is the incumbent who is seeking another term. The CNN reports that Graham Plattner is expected to win his party's nomination. He's a Democrat, despite growing scrutiny over allegations about his past treatment of women and a recent extramarital sexting scandal. He's only been married 3 years. And to achieve this sexting scandal, despite his wife's presence as a high operative in his campaign, it's unusual. There are also primary elections in Nevada, South Carolina, and North Dakota. South Carolina is Lindsey Graham is running against 4 different primary challengers. And the fact that he has so many different challengers makes him a cinch to win renomination and probably win election. The Iran war is also on the ballot in South Carolina, where GOP primary voters, it says in CNN, will determine the political fate of Lindsey Graham. Graham is a steadfast ally of President Trump now. Once upon a time, he was a rival and a political enemy. And he is one of the Senate's most hawkish members. Graham is heavily favored to eventually secure the Republican nomination, but polls show he may need to win a runoff first in what would be a first for the 4-term senator. The most serious challenger Graham faces is attacking him from the right, hoping to tap into the growing anti-Iran war sentiment in the MAGA base and the frustration from the economic fallout from the war. And meanwhile, in California, their report is, of course, that Nithya Raman, who is a member of the city council, will advance to the November election in the nonpartisan so-called mayoral race in Los Angeles. Well, it's nonpartisan because both of the candidates who cleared this first stage of the primary process, both of them, Mayor Karen Bass, who is the incumbent, and Nithya Raman, who is her chief challenger, they're both Democrats, though Nithya Raman says she's a socialist Democrat. CNN projects that Nithya Raman overtook the former reality TV star Spencer Pratt as additional votes were counted following the June 2nd primary. Raman will face incumbent Mayor Karen Bass, setting up a November showdown after Pratt's unlikely bid generated buzz but fell short. And the discussion about alleged cheating in California, in Los Angeles, which led Trump to storm off stage from his appearance on Meet the Press. There's an interesting investigative piece by Kanita Iyer for CNN, and she writes that a Los Angeles-based Justice Department official appointed by Trump on Friday debunked a baseless claim of discrepancy in the vote count of the city's mayoral race that is circulated on social media. The claim, which has been pushed by several right-wing figures on X, including billionaire Elon Musk, alleges a vote count update on election night showed that Republican candidate Spencer Pratt received 0 new votes. The push for clarity comes as President Donald Trump has used the prolonged vote count in California to sow doubt about the integrity of the state's elections, accusing local officials of cheating in a heated exchange with NBC's Meet the Press. On Friday, however, the first assistant U.S. attorney in Los Angeles, Bill Esili, who is a Trump appointee who leads the Los Angeles-based U.S. Attorney's Office, addressed that conspiracy theory. There was a claim circulating on social media about an election night ballot update at the Los Angeles Register of Voters where one candidate received 0 votes. So wrote this U.S. attorney, Esili. We reviewed official county records. The claim is false. Each candidate received votes in every update. Pratt, a former reality TV star, ran against incumbent Mayor Karen Bass and the city councilwoman Nithya Raman, who are both Democrats. A spokesperson for the Associated Press, which publishes vote counts in real time based on reports from election officials, told CNN in a statement that there was a lag in an automated update such that some candidates' votes were added in one update and the other candidates followed about a minute later. Pratt was in the second batch of candidates, the AP said, which means the vote counts were slightly delayed and therefore initially showed him appearing to gain 0 additional votes in one of the updates that came in, while 2 other candidates received thousands of votes. Exactly 1 minute later, that's what we're talking about, the electronic update picked up the votes for another group of candidates, including Spencer Pratt. Taken together, the updates included 21,870 votes for Pratt and only 12,850 votes for Bass and 9,521 votes for Raman, along with voters for other candidates, the AP revealed. So can we put this in context, please? It's important with new elections coming up today. We'll be right back on the Medved Show. And the ongoing battle over the 1 minute gap between votes coming in for Spencer Pratt, which came in 1 minute after the votes for his rivals. And that's at least the way it was tallied and announced on Associated Press. There is absolutely zero evidence that has been provided by anyone, let alone the President of the United States, about the California election being an example of cheating. And again, it's absurd because the Democratic establishment in the state of California, which includes 2 potential presidential candidates, Kamala Harris, former vice president, and Gavin Newsom, the current governor of California, that establishment was all lined up behind the establishment Democratic mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass. And they wanted Spencer Pratt to be their opponent because he has very little money in his campaign and he would be very easy for an establishment Democrat to beat. And all the polls indicated that. He was not somebody who had a big chunk of the electorate behind him going into the final election that is coming up in November. And again, he is not contesting, at least to the best of my knowledge, not yet contesting the results of the election, and he's going back to being an angry homeowner whose house burned down in the Pacific Palisades fire, and he blames the establishment, including Mayor Bass, with his general anger, which I think is shared by lots and lots of people in the Southern California region, about homelessness and the very ineffective strategies for coping with homelessness that have been tried by various official individuals in the California system. Trump last night had an interesting evening, and apparently it wasn't interesting enough to keep him awake the entire time. He was snoozing and losing, or at least his team was losing. It lost. The third game on the NBA, National Basketball Association Championships, took place in Madison Square Garden, and there are photographs of Mr. Trump falling asleep during the game. And there's this article from Mediaite about the Trump curse. And the subheading is that furious Knicks fans blame president for jinxing team's winning streak as they lose to the San Antonio Spurs. New York Knicks fans unhappy after their team lost to the San Antonio Spurs last night aimed some of their frustration at President Trump, accusing him of jinxing the team by attending Game 3 of the NBA Finals in person. Now, it's not only a jinx, which is tough to prove, but what you can prove is that a lot of the outside rallying and the efforts to get into the Madison Square Garden, all of that was delayed because of Trump's presence and the necessary security if you have the president of the United States anywhere, that people had to wait for 2 hours or more to get in to occupy the very expensive seats that they had secured for this event. In any event, they accused him of jinxing the team by attending Game 3 of the NBA Finals in person. The Knicks, New York Knicks, had won 13 straight games, a 46-day winning streak, including taking down the Spurs in San Antonio in the first 2 games of the best-of-7 series. But that ended last night with the Spurs winning 115-111, and what was a very exciting game. Trump had already ruffled the feathers of some fans and local New Yorkers over his decision to attend the game, which triggered much stricter security protocols to protect a sitting president. Meanwhile, there were comments about Trump, who was featured on the Jumbotron during the national anthem, and he was there saluting, as he does, as the national anthem was played, and the NBA Finals game was about to begin. But when he was featured on the Jumbotron and everyone could see him saluting, well, the reaction, you can hear it. It was very loud and resounding boos. And that's boos, B-O-O-S, for President Trump, who is very concerned with spelling. This is clip 21. Okay. He was asked by a reporter on an airport runway in New York, what did you think of the reception you got from the Knicks fans tonight? And the reception was unquestionably unfriendly. Here's President Trump's response.
What did you think of the reception you got from the Knicks fans tonight?
I do it great. I mean,
I thought it was amazing, actually. You mean when they had the camera on me? I thought it was very good, yeah. It was certainly amazing. It was. I think mostly cheers. It was loud and it was very enthusiastic.
Okay, this is truly bizarre given the fact that most people listening to that cacophony, that combination of sounds that you heard while the Trump image was on the Jumbotron, did not sound like it was enthusiastic cheering, as President Trump believes. He was also asked about how he felt about the game, which presumably he was rooting for the Knicks. They're his hometown team. Here's President Trump on the verdict of the game as entertainment. Clip 18.
And he knows a lot about basketball, but it's good. It's good for the game.
You think the NBA
it's a tougher game.
The left wing stuff that they were getting criticized for?
Well, it's a little left wing. I think so. It tends to be a little bit left wing, but it's great entertainment. Great.
And it is true that whether it's great entertainment or not, there were a number of people who didn't appreciate the presence of President Trump. One of them was the frequently acclaimed director Spike Lee, who didn't like the fact that Trump was upstaging his beloved Knicks. He's a very devoted fan who goes to a lot of Knicks games. We'll hear from Spike Lee and Stephen A. Smith of ESPN talking about Trump's presence at the Knicks game last night. Coming up on the Medved Show. And on the Michael Medved Show, Spike Lee is many things. He is a writer. He is an acclaimed director who has won numerous Oscar nominations for Best Director. So he comments on CNN about the Knicks, the New York Knicks, because he is known to be somebody who loves going to their games. He's a successful Hollywood figure who can afford it. It's an expensive process. But he was asked about Trump's presence at the game last night, which apparently did not bring the Knicks any good luck. They lost a game at home after winning 2 games in San Antonio. But here was Spike Lee commenting on CNN.
You are the Knicks fan ambassador, I think is fair to say.
I can't speak for disciples, but I just find it strange that this had to happen now. Got to get there 2 hours early. I mean, it's just like it's taking the focus off. We haven't won since 1973. It should be about the game tonight.
The Knicks had not won a world championship since 1973, which is a long time ago and a long time to go without having such an outstanding team. But Stephen A. Smith, who's a sportscaster on ESPN, he's very outspoken. And as a matter of fact, he was listed by the Washington Post as a potential candidate for president of the United States because he's very popular and very effective at what he does, which is making sports even more exciting than it is. Here is Stephen A. Smith talking about his complaint about Donald Trump's upstaging of the Knicks and of professional basketball last night. This is clip 12.
This president has no business showing up in New York City. I am dead serious. It is selfish. It is narcissistic. It is ridiculous that he is coming to this game. I would say the same thing if it were Obama, George W., Clinton. I don't give a damn. We went back to Reagan. This is not a football stadium in some space in Texas where you got a whole bunch of outlays and all of this. This is the Garden. This is Midtown Manhattan. You have any idea what the congestion is going to be like in New York City here?
Okay, congestion was serious. And the idea, though, however, that the President of the United States of America has no business in New York City, no right to visit New York City, especially given the fact that he is somebody who was born in and raised in New York City. And yes, Queens is part of the city of New York, the Queens borough of the 5 boroughs of New York City. There's also an extreme left-wing podcaster named Hassan Piker, who we've talked about before. He is bitterly anti-Semitic and anti-Israel and extremely anti-Americans. But he actually tried to make the case on his podcast that if the Knicks lose tonight, and they did, he knew exactly who to blame. This is clip 14.
I'm telling you, bro, if the Knicks lose tonight, it's literally because of Donald Trump. There's no other reason for it. It's not because like Wemby locked in, okay? It's not because they found a way to defeat the Knicks defense. It's not because they were able to stop the Knicks offense. It's just Donald Trump. There's no other reason for this to take place. They're so up right now. New York as a city is so up right now. Donald Trump is coming in to deliver the worst kind of juju. The real 5-head script here is Adam Silver's doing this to extend the finals. You know what I mean? Adam Silver was like, we bring in the vibes assassin Donald Trump, and he just like everything up.
Living up to his anti-Semitic reputation and pattern, he finds a way to blame Adam Silver, who is the head of the NBA. And then he talks about the wrong kind of juju. I'm not sure if that particular noun was put forward as entirely an accident, given that it came from Hassan Piker. But concerning President Trump and his presence at the basketball game, there's also controversy. Of course, it's Trump, so there's controversy about everything. But Ted Lieu, a member of Congress from Beverly Hills, California, he's in the Los Angeles area, and he's a Democrat. And he has been extremely aggressive in interrogating Marco Rubio, for example, on the issue of President Trump's sleeping habits and the fact that he does tend to fall asleep at major and important events. And Ted Lieu did a press conference on Capitol Hill where he observed, as many people did, and there are photographs and videos that indicate that it's true, he fell asleep during some of the exciting moments of the basketball game. And here's what Congressman Ted Lieu of California had to say about it, clip 22.
The President of the United States is not well. We can see it with our own eyes. He has tremendous difficulty staying awake on the job. Donald Trump has repeatedly fallen asleep at multiple cabinet meetings, at multiple White House events, at a Memorial Day ceremony, and most recently at a very loud and raucous New York Knicks San Antonio Spurs game last night. The White House needs to come clean to the American people. They need to explain why Donald Trump keeps going to the hospital and why they keep giving him cognitive tests. The American people deserve the truth.
Okay, I think that this is a very ineffective means of attack. There are certainly enough things to complain about with Donald Trump. But to focus on his sleeping, it just seems to me is ridiculous. Because, again, as long as he is sleeping, he's not doing anything to try to upset our system or to take away our liberty or to try to score partisan points. And then Bernie Sanders, speaking of sleepy old people, Bernie Sanders is not sleepy. He's extremely energetic. But he was at a forum in D.C. discussing Trump's ill-fated session on Meet the Press. And this is what Bernie Sanders had to say about the President of the United States. Clip 9.
The idea that you have a president wants to name every bloody thing after himself is weird. And I don't know if anybody saw the Meet the Press interview the other day with Chris. Again, we say, oh, well, that's just Trump. But that is a mentally unstable person. And I don't, who has strong paranoid tendencies. I mean, if you NBC is against them, ABC is against them, CBS is against them, the whole world is against them. That is, to say the least, a dangerous situation for somebody like that to be in the White House.
Okay, that's Bernie Sanders' position. Meanwhile, coming up, Pete Hegseth. What people have talked about is his holy war, honoring the sacrifice at D-Day. He actually offended many people by comparing basically the current leadership of Europe to the leadership of Europe before World War II, and talking about D-Day being comparable to the invasion of Europe by too many immigrants from abroad. This is not a way to try to repair whatever damage has happened to the alliance between the United States and our most important co-members of NATO. We will get to Pete Hegseth and more in This Greatest Nation on God's Green Earth.